Hey folks, and welcome back to Letters for Now. This is Dan. Before we get into it today, I would like to ask that if you enjoy the essays or the audio posts here on Substack, to please share it out into the world, or if you don't want to do that, invite someone, or maybe many someones, who you think might enjoy this type of content as a part of their maybe copious amounts of content consumption throughout any given day or week. Maybe this is a needed little bonus content for them to have. So today I want to talk about nature and the way that nature treats us and teaches us as part of its own in a broader environment and economy. And what does nature say to human beings, part of nature as we are, about what economics looks like in its most natural state, without all of the overlays that humans drive into marketplaces and economies, and maybe the unnecessary complexities that we let infuse almost every single interaction or transaction in our lives. So let's think of it this way. You don't swipe a card for dawn. You don't sign a receipt for the air in your lungs or for the rain on your garden. The essentials of life, sunlight, water, oxygen, they all arrive without an invoice. They feel free, but they are not free in the sense that they don't come without responsibility. The truth is, anyone or anything that gives to us asks for something in return. Not money, because it's not a transaction, but something older and deeper and more profound. The givers ask to be sustained so that they can keep sustaining us. It is a world of mutual sustaining. We live in a world that trains us to see everything as a deal. We give money, we get a thing. That's neat and clean and tidy. The ledger balances. The obligation ends. But nature doesn't work like that. Nature's gifts come with a different kind of request. Not a payment, but a promise to tend the soil that grows our food, to protect the river that gives us water, to allow the pollinator to return next year and the forest to regrow after it shelters us. This isn't a rejection of markets. They can help us organize and distribute. But there's a truth we've let slip. Transactions can move goods, but only relationships sustain life. On a side street in late summer, a neighbor just around the corner, they leave out tomatoes. And there's no price tag because they aren't for sale. But there is a little sign that says, "Take what you need." The tomatoes are a visible gift. But the real gift is the act of planting, watering, and tending, and the quiet hope that someone else will do the same, somewhere else, someday. Or take the maple tree that shades half of the block down my street in July. It cools the air, it shelters nesting birds, and it slows the rain, so it sinks instead of floods And what does it ask? Well, in contrast, very little. It says, don't pave over my roots. Give me water in dry spells. Let goldenrod grow for the bees. And in return, I'll offer decades of gifts, many of which you will never see. There's another example. There's a creek near the town where I live that's paid for on paper, with permits secured and boxes all checked. But that creek is dying. And downstream, a different creek thrives. And that one is not because of money. It's because of neighbors who built buffers and slowed runoff and watched over it. They gave it time and care and attention, and the creek repaid them in clear water and a living chorus of frogs and dragonflies. So the question, for me at least, changes when I see the world as a gift. It's no longer what will this cost me, but how will I help it to continue? We stop measuring by invoices and start measuring by viability. Is the soil richer after I use it? Is the river cleaner downstream? Are our neighbors more resourced because we're here? Guilt doesn't fuel this shift for long, but belonging does. When you see yourself as part of the cycle, not as something that needs to dominate or rule over it, but a part of the cycle, giving back isn't penance. It's exactly how you stay connected to what feeds you, both physically and emotionally and mentally. So, return what's living. Compost, save seeds, plant natives. Give at least a square foot back to complexity and wildness. Return your presence. Learn the names of the birds and the trees and the people around you. But all of those things, not just the people. Walk one path often enough that you can feel how it changes you. Return your share. Offer time and skill, or a portion of what you have, to keep a source alive. The watershed, the community pantry, the neighborhood garden. Right now, take a breath. You didn't pay for that air. You don't owe money for it. But you do owe something. The work of belonging to the cycle that made it possible. This week, give something back to one of your sources. Mulch a tree. Let a patch of grass grow wild. Send thanks to the volunteers at your community garden. Because nature doesn't just give us gifts. Those gifts are an invitation to us into a lifelong conversation. And in that conversation, it becomes all too clear that it is one where the only real currency is reciprocity. I sustain you so that you can sustain me. It reminds me of that scene from Forrest Gump. I struggled there for the name because I don't watch many movies. But I think it's in that movie where they are leaning against each other's back, him and Bubba, so that neither of them have to sleep with their head in the mud. That is a mutual sustaining. It's not just your ability and your capacity to tend to and care for something else or someone else, but it is your willingness and your trust that when you are in need or in want of something, that in a very similar fashion, you can lean into those relationships for those things. And that the transactional nature of the balanced ledger does not have to enter that world. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed, please share this along, invite some friends. As you know, there is no paywall, so there is no barrier to entry here. It's very easy to come try it out. And as always, I will see you in the next one.